Hi, I'm Dr Ahan Sari and welcome to AnewZ. Let's see the top stories shaping our world. US President Donald Trump has announced plans to increase tariffs on steel and aluminium imports to 50%. Flooding in Nigeria's Niger state has killed 151 people and forced several thousand from their home. The second Global Islamic Economy Summit kicks off in Istanbul. The Turkish leader calls for stronger Islamic trade ties. US President Donald Trump plans to increase tariffs on steel and aluminium imports to 50% effective as of the 4th of June. This doubles them from the current 25% announced in February. New tariffs would apply to millions of tons of steel and aluminium imports from Canada, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and other countries.
US President Donald Trump has announced plans to increase tariffs on steel and aluminum imports to 50%. In February, Trump raised the tariff rates to 25% in one of his first moves to aid the struggling industries. Now he's doubled them in what he believes will secure the steel industry.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's going to get around that. So we're bringing it up from 25%, we're doubling it to 50%.
The US president says the move is meant to boost the local steel industry and national security while reducing reliance on China.
If you don't have steel, you don't have a country. You don't have a country. You can't make a military. What are we going to do? Say, let's go to China to get our steel for the army tanks and for the boats and ships. A strong steel industry is not just a matter of dignity or prosperity and pride. It's above all a matter of national security, and it is.
In a post on social media, Trump said that the higher tariff rate would take effect on June 4th. The tariffs would apply to millions of tons of steel and aluminum imports from Canada, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and other countries that had been entering the US duty-free. Canada's Chamber of Commerce has denounced the tariff hike, calling it antithetical to North American economic security. Australia, a key US security ally in the Indo-Pacific, also condemned the tariff increase, saying it is unjust, and vowed to advocate strongly for the removal of the tariffs. The European Union voiced strong regret over Trump's decision and warned that such a move would add uncertainty to the global economy. Trump's tariff announcement came as he promoted the pending $14.9 billion acquisition of America's biggest steel manufacturer, US Steel, by Japan's Nippon Steel, a move he believes will preserve American steel jobs. The doubling of steel and aluminum levies intensifies Trump's global trade war and came just hours after he accused China of violating an agreement with the US to mutually roll back tariffs and trade restrictions for critical minerals.
US President Donald Trump says he believes an agreement is close on a Gaza ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. His statement comes as the US proposed a 60-day ceasefire plan that includes sending humanitarian aid to Gaza. The plan also includes releasing 28 Israeli hostages, both alive and dead, in the first week, in exchange for 1,236 Palestinian prisoners and the remains of 180 others. Israel has accepted the deal, while Hamas says it's undertaking a thorough review of the proposal, but added that it fails to meet the demands of the Palestinian people. Ahead of the proposed second round of direct Moscow-Kiev peace negotiations in Istanbul, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has been shuttling between the two capitals, aiming to lay the groundwork for the talks.
Turkey is actively working to mediate peace between Russia and Ukraine. On a visit to Kyiv, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan expressed hope that the two sides will make significant progress on technical issues during their next round of talks, potentially paving the way for a leaders' summit. He said Ankara would like to host the summit with both Turkish and US presidents present. The Istanbul talks on May 16th, which marked the first direct contact between Moscow and Kiev in 3 years, were described by Fidan as a new beginning. He believes further negotiations are possible.
İstanbul'da 16 Mayıs'ta gerçekleştirilen görüşmeler diplomatik çözüm arayışlarına.
The talks held in Istanbul on the 16th of May added a new dimension to the search for a diplomatic solution. Expectations for a ceasefire and peace have increased. We consider the Istanbul talks as a new beginning. The rapid completion of the prisoner swap agreement reached in Istanbul has proven that negotiations can yield concrete results. We want the momentum gained in Istanbul to continue.
However, Ukraine remains cautious. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha stated that Kiev is still waiting to receive a formal document outlining Russia's peace proposals before deciding whether to attend the next meeting, scheduled for June 2nd in Istanbul. Sybiha did not clarify what steps Ukraine would take if the document is not received.
We are interested in these meetings continuing because we want to end this war this year, and we are interested in establishing a ceasefire, whether it is for 30 days, or for 50 days, or for 100 days. Ukraine is open to discussing this directly with Russia. We confirmed this during the last meeting of our delegations with the Russian side.
The Kremlin has confirmed its negotiators will travel to Istanbul and be ready for talks on Monday. A list of conditions for a potential ceasefire is expected to be on the table.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed a deep skepticism over Russia's intentions ahead of scheduled peace talks in Istanbul. While the Kremlin has confirmed its participation, Kiev says Moscow has yet to provide any concrete proposals, a critical step for meaningful dialogue. With both parties appearing worlds apart, is Istanbul just another stop in a cycle of stalled diplomacy? To unpack the stakes, the signals and the strategy behind the scenes, I'm joined by Professor Dr Kam Kasim from the Department of International Relations at Bolu Abant İzzet Baysal University. Mr. Kasim, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Professor Kasim, what do you make of President Zelensky's statement accusing Moscow of trying to ensure the next possible meeting is fruitless? Does this signal a complete breakdown in trust?
Really, both sides now supposed to meet in Istanbul on Monday.
Yes.
But Ukrainian side now expects that Russia first put its peace proposal. But Ukrainian side argued that it has not been prepared yet. But it is important that both sides should meet on Monday in Istanbul, at least to discuss possibilities of or basic parameters of the peace. On the one hand, of course, in the previous meeting, Moscow provided very maximalist demands. For example, Russia argued that it wants to keep all the territories that now under the control of Russia, and plus Russia wants a guarantee that Ukraine will not be a member of NATO, and also Russia wants Ukrainian military size to be restricted. But we look to all of these Russian demands, it might be considered very maximalist. But if you are in the negotiation table, of course, this is a kind of give and take process. So both sides need some kind of concession to reach any kind of agreement or deal.
From a strategic perspective, what might Russia be aiming to achieve by participating in talks without presenting concrete terms?
Actually, for Russia or for Ukraine not to participate any of the talks, which means that giving the perception that this side it does not want to reach a deal, does not want to end the conflict. So for Russia also it is the same. If Russia, for example, rejects to meet in Istanbul on Monday, many Western countries or many countries will argue that Russia does not want to end the war. So it is important for both sides to take a seat on the table, in the negotiation table. But afterwards, we don't know what will happen, whether long-term ceasefire both sides will achieve, or it is possible that nothing may happen on Monday. But it is important that both sides should sit and talk.
Professor Kasim, how significant is Turkey's role as host in these negotiations? Could Ankara play a mediating role that breaks the deadlock?
Turkey's role really very, very important. As you know, Turkey actually supports territorial integrity of Ukraine. Turkey doesn't recognize Russian annexation of Crimea. But on the other hand, Turkey doesn't participate sanctions against Russia because Turkey argues that heavy sanctions on Russia does not go anywhere. It does not really good for the peace. So if you want to both sides to sit and talk for the solution of the conflict, really world needs one country that can talk to the both sides. This is really what Turkey's position is now. Turkey is a country can talk with both sides, and if both sides supposed to manage any kind of deal, Turkey will be the perfect mediator in this sense.
Professor Kam Kasim, thank you for joining us and sharing your insights on such a critical and evolving issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To Asia now, China is lifting its ban on Japanese seafood imports, ending a month of trade restrictions imposed after the release of treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant. The move signals a diplomatic thaw between the two nations, with new safety measures now in place. Our own Manhur Maktoum brings us more from Beijing.
China has announced that it plans to gradually resume seafood imports from Japan, lifting a ban that has been in place since August 2023. The ban was originally imposed in response to Japan's release of treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant, a move that triggered strong opposition from Beijing and had severe implications for Japan's seafood export. The decision came after both countries reached a consensus on a framework to ensure food safety. Under the new agreement, Japan has committed to providing detailed documentation verifying the safety of its seafood products and providing proof that all its shipment is free of harmful radioactive substances. Japan will also register its seafood processing facilities with the Chinese authorities to enhance transparency and traceability. The resumption of trade will be phased, starting with imports outside of the Fukushima region and subject to scientific evaluation and risk assessment. Before the ban, China was Japan's biggest market for seafood export, purchasing over $500 million worth in 2022. This development marks a step forward in bilateral relations and reflects the two countries' willingness to manage environmental and health concerns through dialogue and cooperation. Manhur Maktoum, AnewZ, Beijing, China.
A series of natural disasters has struck communities across Nigeria, India, Indonesia and Switzerland, leaving behind devastation, loss of life and widespread displacement.
The death toll from severe flooding in Nigeria's Niger state has risen to at least 151 as recovery efforts continue in the town of Mokwa. Triggered by heavy overnight rainfall, the disaster has displaced more than 3,000 people and affected over 500 households. Water levels surged so high that rooftops were barely visible, forcing residents to navigate waist-deep waters through the devastation. In India, days of relentless rainfall have caused widespread flooding and landslides across several northeastern and northern regions. Cities like Guwahati have been heavily waterlogged, with roads and homes submerged, forcing residents to wade through knee-deep water or abandon their vehicles. In some areas, families were unable to evacuate due to challenging conditions. The downpour has triggered landslides, damaged homes and disrupted essential infrastructure. Authorities have reported multiple casualties and set up emergency shelters to assist affected communities. Search efforts are ongoing to find people still buried beneath the rubble after a rock collapse at a quarry in West Java, Indonesia. At least 10 people have been confirmed dead following the incident at the Gunung Kuda mining site, where heavy machinery was also trapped under debris. The latest satellite images show mud, destroyed structures and submerged homes in the Alpine village of Blatten following a massive glacier collapse in Switzerland's Lötschental Valley, which happened earlier this week. The rock and ice avalanche wiped out 90% of the village and blocked the Lonza River, forming a temporary lake. Fears of downstream flooding have led authorities to issue warnings and urge nearby communities like Gampel and Steg to prepare for possible evacuation.
To Europe now, where Poland's presidential race is heading into its final stretch. Both leading candidates held their last campaign rallies ahead of Sunday's crucial runoff vote. With a vote just hours away, Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski and conservative historian Karol Nawrocki made their final pitches. Trzaskowski in Gdansk evoked Poland's solidarity past, urging unity and change. Nawrocki, speaking to supporters, framed himself as a grassroots candidate, challenging political elites. In the first round, Trzaskowski led with just over 31%. Nawrocki closed behind at nearly 30%. With all other candidates out, Sunday's vote will decide Poland's political direction. The stakes are high and the outcome could reshape the country's future, from its relationship with Brussels to the very structure of the democracy.
Poland is just days away from choosing its next president. The runoff pits two sharply different visions. Rafał Trzaskowski, Warsaw mayor, the Oxford-educated son of a jazz musician, champions a liberal agenda that emphasises women's rights and strong ties with the European Union and NATO. Karol Nawrocki, a historian endorsed by the Trump administration, presents himself as a political outsider with no establishment baggage. He wants Poland to follow a path inspired by Trump, viewing Washington, not Brussels, as Warsaw's key ally. Trzaskowski has pledged peaceful cooperation with the government of Prime Minister Donald Tusk and vowed to help reverse changes made to Poland's judiciary under National Conservative political party Law and Justice, reforms that critics in the EU at home say have weakened democratic checks and balances. In the October 2023 parliamentary elections, Law and Justice Party lost its majority to Tusk's coalition after 8 years in power, amid widespread public dissatisfaction over its record on women's and minority rights.
Potrzebna jest pełna determinacja.
Full determination is needed. Every vote is needed so that the future wins, so that all of Poland wins. This is not just about choosing a president, it's about choosing whether Poland continues to stand with Europe with democratic values and with a fair, modern future.
His challenger, Karol Nawrocki, is running on tradition and patriotism. Poland's outgoing president, Andrzej Duda, a Law and Justice Party ally, has used his veto power to block many of Tusk's reforms. Karol Nawrocki promises to do the same, framing the election as a referendum on the government. Pollsters expect most far-right votes to go to him.
We are ready for this. We are determined, and it will all end Poland's victory. I will enter the second round of the presidential elections, and I believe that all candidates for whom Poland is an important issue, who want a Poland with aspirations.
For many Conservative voters, Karol Nawrocki symbolises pride, continuity and the protection of national identity. His supporters say he would defend traditional values and shield Poland from what they see as growing threats to its sovereignty.
My grandparents fought for Poland. My great-grandparents fought for Poland. And the governments of Civic Platform and PSL are simply taking that away from us. But if Nawrocki wins, Poland will remain Poland.
Poland will change if Nawrocki becomes president because it will free itself from foreign influence, from the influence of our German neighbours, and it will become stronger, independent and militarily reinforced.
Meanwhile, a growing number of young voters are rallying behind Rafał Trzaskowski, many of them former left-wing voters now placing their hopes in the centrist candidate. For them, this election is less about ideology and more about housing, stability and social inclusion.
We see that a lot of people want radical changes and want changes now. It's what young generation want. They want cheap housing, they want a normal work and want stability.
I would also like to pay less tax if I could. I have my own business, and of course that's important. But social policy matters more to me. Creating a space for young people, encouraging people to start families. Demographics come first. We won't achieve anything if our country isn't inclusive. It's nice not to pay taxes, but who will fund public nurseries? Where will the money come from?
As Poland prepares to cast its final votes, the stakes are high, not just for Warsaw, but for the future shape of politics across the European Union.
The Muslim world holds vast untapped economic potential. That was the key message delivered by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the second Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul. Erdogan urged deeper cooperation among Islamic countries in trade, finance and investment, while also highlighting Turkey's ambition to make Istanbul a leading hub for Islamic finance. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday highlighted the Muslim world's underperformance and untapped economic potential, urging for greater intra-Islamic cooperation in trade, finance and investment. Addressing delegates at the second Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul, Erdogan emphasized the disparity between the Muslim world's demographic weight and its economic clout.
Dünya nüfusunun %25'ini oluşturuyoruz.
Muslims account for 25% of the world's population, yet Islamic finance assets total only about $2.5 trillion. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is the largest international organization after the United Nations, consists of 57 member countries. However, their share in global trade is only around 11%. In terms of population, we represent 25% of the world, yet our contribution to the global economy is approximately 9%. As the Islamic world, we must maximize our trade, investment, financial cooperation and collaboration opportunities.
Ve işbirliği imkanlarını en üst düzeye çıkarmamız gerekiyor.
President Erdogan also highlighted Turkey's commitment to establishing Istanbul as a global Islamic finance hub, citing the Istanbul Financial Center initiative as a major step in that direction.
Katılım finansın İstanbul merkezli olarak gelişip serpilmesine
The collaborations we have initiated under the Istanbul Financial Center serve as a concrete testament to our efforts to integrate into the global economy while preserving our Islamic values. With the dedicated efforts of our institutions and authorities, I hope we can transform these advantages into lasting achievements.
Kazanımlara tahvil edebilmeyi ümit ediyorum.
The second Global Islamic Economy Summit brings together high-level officials, experts and private sector representatives. The gathering is focused on increasing operational efficiency, encouraging innovation, strengthening risk management, promoting financial participation and supporting cooperation among industry stakeholders by developing a deeper understanding of Islamic principles.
Müslümanlar olarak
To delve deeper into the political, economic and ideological dimensions of Erdogan's message, I'm joined by Dr Ahan Sari, Assistant Professor at the Turkish German University in Istanbul. Dr. Sari, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Dr. Sari, speaking at the second Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan emphasized the demographic strength of the Muslim world versus its limited economic clout. What structural factors do you believe contribute to this imbalance?
We see that Muslim world is rich in population but structurally excluded from the global economic governance. And we know that this system, this current economic global governance system is established with the Bretton Woods institutions such as IMF, World Bank and World Trade Organization. And we see all these institutions are shaped by Western countries and by West-centered economic order. And Muslim countries are dependent to this system. And despite our high population, we do not have a decision maker position in that system, and that exactly must be overturned in the near future. And I think now, in times where we have this global shift, where the international system, international political order that was established after the Second World War collapsing, we have a power vacuum at the moment. And this power vacuum can be filled by alternative system and actors. Exactly here must Islamic countries take the initiative and try to create new economic blocks and new regional partnership. And I think Turkey can play a role to provide this infrastructure that these Islamic countries need. But of course, there are a huge problem in the Islamic societies. We know there are a lot of political rivalries, and we know there are a lot of sectarian divides that are major obstacles to economic unification. But as I said before, the global order is shifting. There's a huge power vacuum, and with the initiative of Turkey, this problem could be solved in the near future. And we know that Turkey has diplomatic reach and institutional capacities. We know Turkey plays the mediator role a lot in the near future, as we see in the Russian-Ukraine war. I think Turkey can also play the mediator role between Islamic countries to bring a solution to this political and sectarian division. And afterwards, I think we could start to build the Islamic economic system. I know we need a lot of work to establish this system, but we should start from somewhere. And I think current political conditions in the international system shows us this is the right time to begin with a new initiative.
Dr. Sari, to what extent does the Islamic finance model offer a viable alternative to the Western-dominated financial system, especially in a time of growing global debt and inequality?
Yes, this is the most important problem of the current system, because we know that the current system is built on colonial legacies. We know that this global system has a lot of institutional weakness, and it is external dependency reinforced the imbalance. We know this is a hard capitalist system, and all other countries, not only Islamic countries, but all other countries are outsider of that system. This system only helps the capitalist Western states to build their infrastructure, to make them richer, but out of the, except of the Western countries, Western capitalist countries, Western central states, Latin America, South Global, and all the Islamic world is outsider of that system, and we do not benefit from that system. And more importantly, we are not in the decision maker position. If you do not decide for your own future, for your own economy, for your own security, it means the others are deciding for you, and the others are always thinking for their own material interests. I think this is the most problematic aspect of the current system.
Dr. Ahan Sari, thank you for your valuable time and insights. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Kazakhstan has hosted the very first Central Asia-Italy summit in its capital, Astana. The high-level gathering focused on boosting trade, investment and strategic cooperation between Italy and 5 Central Asian nations.
For the first time, leaders from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan and Italy came together under one roof in Astana. The summit aimed to deepen regional ties and explore new opportunities in trade, energy and connectivity. Kazakh President Kasim Tokayev underlined Italy's growing role in the region.
And it's not coincidence that Italy has become the 3rd largest partner of Kazakhstan in the world, and Italy is #1 in Europe. So I believe that we should keep momentum of and high dynamic of our mutual cooperation, and of course your visit will be playing a very important role in terms of giving impetus to further developing multifaceted cooperation between both states.
At the summit, Tokayev proposed opening an Italian trading house in Almaty and launching a B5 Plus Italy dialogue platform to bring businesses from Central Asia and Italy together. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called Kazakhstan a key partner for Italy, especially in areas beyond energy.
Kazakhstan is a partner that for Italy is important for lots of domains. And our cooperation has always been a very, very good one, but as I was saying yesterday, there is always room to do better.
Yes.
From energy until what I consider very important, which is culture, the exchanges between our universities, our people.
The summit follows months of strong diplomatic activity. In just over a year, both leaders have exchanged visits, pushing trade to $1.3 billion in 2024. With over $15 billion in Italian investment and nearly 300 Italian companies now operating in Kazakhstan, both sides say the time is right to expand their strategic partnership, backed by new agreements signed at the summit.
As Central Asia becomes a key player between East and West, Kazakhstan is deepening ties with Europe. Earlier today, Nurbalat Nushanbayev, expert in international relations, shared with AnewZ his insights on Kazakhstan's growing partnership and the significance of this new platform for cooperation.
Definitely, for Kazakhstan, European partners are taking greater importance in the last few years. So yesterday in Astana, we have had the first Central Asia plus Italy summit. So the relations between Central Asia and Italy definitely will reduce the depending on Russia and on China for the long term. So for now, we see on the relations between Italy and Kazakhstan, primarily the main sectors are logistics, investment, and energy sectors. But I hope those two countries should expand their relations on education, on culture, and many other sectors. Because historically, between Astana and Rome, they used to be the 2 parts of this Great Silk Road. So therefore, I think in 2025, it's a time to renovate those old logistical hubs. So connecting Europe and between East and West. So therefore, the role of Italy, besides Brussels, besides the European Union as a state, is very important in terms of logistics for the whole Central Asia, including Kazakhstan.
Azerbaijan has been elected as a member of UN Habitat Program's Executive Board for next 4 years at the body's assembly in Nairobi. The board plays a central role in guiding UN Habitat's work on sustainable urban development. Azerbaijan's involvement with the agency has grown since hosting the World Habitat Day in 2023. The country is also preparing to host the UN World Urban Forum in 2026. Georgia's new Foreign Agents Registration Act officially comes into force today, changing the country's political and legal rules. The law punishes people involved in Georgia's politics who received foreign money and work for foreign interests with up to 5 years in prison. Those who don't follow it can be called foreign agents and face criminal charges. Fundraisers for foreign groups are also included, but registered media are exempt. fines range from $1,800 to $3,600. The Anti-Corruption Bureau will enforce the law. It follows the earlier law on the transparency of foreign influence, which came into force in August 2024 and sparked mass protests across Georgia. Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan have taken important steps to strengthen their judicial cooperation. During an official visit to Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan's Minister of Justice Farid Ahmadov met with his Uzbek counterpart Akbar Tashkulov to discuss ways to expand ties between their countries' legal systems. They signed a cooperation program for 2025 to 2026 between the two justice ministries. The agreement includes joint efforts in legal training, digitalization of judicial services, legislative reforms, notarial practices, and forensic expertise. 14 members of an alleged Armenian fraud ring have been arrested in Los Angeles under suspicion of stealing $30 million in COVID relief and small business loans. According to U.S. prosecutors, out of 18 defendants named in the criminal complaints, 4 are believed to be in Armenia.
The exclusive Fox News report revealed that an Armenian crime ring stole $30 million in COVID relief and small business loans intended to help American taxpayers. Federal agents have arrested 14 suspects in connection with the scheme. 13 of them are Armenian-born, and at least one is expected to face deportation. One of the key figures is believed to be William McGrayan, who investigators say led the operation. He's accused of using fake tax and bank documents to create shell companies, applying for $47 million in federal funds and securing around $30 million. Court documents describe McGrayan as unstable, with alleged ties to Armenian gangs. An informant told authorities he once threatened someone with a gun and a baseball bat. Investigators say McGrayan helped funnel stolen money into luxury purchases and overseas transfers, making it harder to trace. The suspects were taken to a secure processing center after the raids. Agents seized $20,000 in cash, money-counting machines, cell phones, laptops, and 2 loaded 9mm handguns with boxes of ammunition. This marks the second week in a row that Homeland Security has carried out early morning raids in Los Angeles, targeting transnational crime networks. The suspects now face charges including conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering.
Well, that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to AnewZ for more updates.